Hi, I want to speak a little bit today about the meaning of culture, civilization, history, specifically to Lebanon. There was a tweet that um, um, somewhat grated me a couple of days ago. An idiot basically tweeted that about two regions of Mount Lebanon, Byblos and Kisirwain, which is a district of Mount Lebanon, arguing or actually telling people to read history, and if you read history, if you're versed in history, you'll know that these areas are originally Shiite, not just Muslim, but they're Shiite areas conquered by the Christians, as if the Christians came from Mars. Um, Besides the fact that that person's uh, chronology and the use of anachronistic designations, besides the fact that it's mind-boggling, the historical illiteracy is also should be declared illegal. So I want to speak in that context about civilization a little bit, and basically borrow from André Malraux, who argued that a civilization as such does not exist without founding texts, and those founding texts are what give a civilization a structure and constitution. In that sense, every civilization is what aggregates around a text, around scriptures. Une civilisation est tout ce qui s'agrège autour d'un texte. Even these are Malraux's words. So in that sense, even civilizations that do not have known texts are the aggregates of a text, are the aggregates of some sort of a scripture. Michel Onfray famously said, "Ce n'est pas parce qu'il n'y a pas de texte qu'un texte n'a pas existé." So there's always a text that spawns a culture, that spawns a civilization. So civilizations always come with a text, a user's guide, if you will, and a user's guide that spawns art forms that are themselves the outcome or the spawn of this basic text, this user's guide, an incarnation of the civilization and its text, so to speak. In that sense, there is no art, profane as it may be, without religiosity, without a sacred origin, without a textual origin, if you will, a sort of transcendence, which is to say, a way of communing with a certain idea, with a certain thereafter, with a certain divine and spiritual, in order to explain the here and now and the material. Michel Onfray argues, and this is his hypothesis, but if you do some digging, you will know that it is spot on. He argues that this has been the case since prehistoric times. In other words, there isn't human art without a divine inspiration. And this guy is an atheist, but he's admitting what is historically provable. There isn't art without a text. There aren't etchings, sculptures, monumental architectures, social ethics, music, literature, codes of conduct, moral guidelines, political and social organization. None of that would exist without a religious impulse, whether that religious impulse is animist, shamanist, pagan, polytheist, monotheistic, you name it. And this is the case with Judeo-Christian civilization, Muslim civilization, Hindu civilization, and every other living and extinct civilization. And this is the model of human societies ever since there were human societies. In this context, I'll conclude, this is going to be very brief, I'll conclude by saying a few things about Judeo-Christian civilization and Lebanon's place in the heart, not to say at the heart, of that Judeo-Christian civilization. But first, a few words on the span of that civilization. And I mentioned this in earlier podcasts or elements of it. It doesn't take a genius to realize that our modern world, whether you live in a Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, or atheist world, our modern world today is imbued in Christian symbols and values, not to say Judeo-Christian symbols and values, and even products of mind and body that are the outcome of Judeo-Christian civilizations. Brief example that we take for granted and we encounter on a daily basis. Terms, concepts such as religion, atheism, separation of church and state, freedom of religion or freedom from religion, freedom of conscience and expression, democracy, secularism, equality, human rights, abhorrence of polygamy. All of these concepts are Judeo-Christian, not to say Christian products. Even if you don't believe in either the Judeity of Jesus or the divinity of Jesus, you are still a Christian and a Jew in that sense, a Judeo-Christian, whether you like it or not, because the values and products of Judeo-Christian civilization saturate your life on a daily basis, again, whether you like it or not, whether you notice it or not. Every time you flick on your lights, every time you open your fridge, read a stupid tweet, board a plane, slip on your jeans and t-shirt, ride your stinking motzik, as they do in Lebanon, or brag about your stupid missile capabilities reaching into the heart of Tel Aviv. Every time you do any of these most mundane things on a daily basis, you are partaking of the products of Judeo-Christian civilization. And you're welcome. Lebanon, as I said earlier, is in the heart of that civilization, not to say is the heart of that civilization. So when a half-baked Shiite Lebanese tweep with a reptilian brain writes that Mount Lebanon is Shiite land conquered from Shiites by Christian intruders, and that, quote, if you don't believe me, check out history, end quote, I'll have to say, check out your brain cells first, because before you try your hand at brandishing historical evidence, you ought to first try literacy and moral and intellectual decency, and try to stay away from anachronisms. Not only is Mount Lebanon not Shiite land, historically speaking, but the entirety of Lebanon and what negationist Arabo-fascists and Islamists call Palestine and Syria, those are actually the cradle of Judeo-Christian civilization, a cradle that was conquered and mutilated by Muslim colonial armies in the 7th century AD. And yes, it is AD, Anno Domini. Thank you. Take care of yourselves.